Welcome back to Free Thoughts from Freedom Chiropractic and Rehab. This is episode 11. This week's quote isn't really attributed to anyone. Lots of different people have said it lots of different ways, but the gist of the quote is, don't limit your challenges, challenge your limits. What a great quote, right? This reminded me of a conversation that I had with a patient just last week. This patient came in, we were talking about their training program. I explained to them that when I was training in my 20s and 30s, they were in their mid-30s. I explained to them that when I was training in my 20s and 30s, I was training for short-term goals. I was training to be faster. I was training to be stronger. I was training to beat that PR. I was training for things that would give me instant gratification. When I reached my 40s, somewhere along the line, I had a moment of clarity. I realized that we're not training for the short term. We need to train for the long term. That's when I started talking with my patients about training for longevity. Now, what does that really mean? I train, my motivation now, when people ask, my motivation when I train is not to get a PR, it's not to be faster, it's not to be stronger. It's so that when I'm in my 70s and I want to do something, and my girls look at me and say, Dad, you probably shouldn't do that. I can look them in the eye and say, you know what? I've been training for the last 50 years for this moment. Don't you dare tell me I can't do it, right? Let me show you what I can do. So in order to do that, I don't lift as heavy, but I focus on my form, right? I may not do as many reps, but I make sure that every rep I do is right? I want to make sure that I'm training to avoid injury while also increasing my strength and stamina and hopefully speed. So think about that for a moment. When you go to the gym, are you pushing yourself to the point where it might result in an injury? Or are you controlling the movements yourself? Are you choosing to do them right? Are you choosing to do them efficiently in such a way that you're not going to cause an injury? As an example, I used to do a lot of kettlebell snatching, right? So taking that kettlebell from the floor to overhead. Great exercise. I love it. However, my shoulders and my back don't love it. What I found is I can do a clean and press. The clean is bringing it into that rack position and then pressing it overhead. It's not quite the same, but it's pretty darn close with a much lower likelihood of injury. So for me, I've taken the snatch out of my training programs. I don't do it anymore. I'll do it from time to time just to do it, but I'll do it with a lightweight and really under controlled reps. I'm not doing high volume. I'm doing 5 reps and putting it down. So the goal is to figure out the exercises that put you at risk. And if you can, take those exercises out. The flip side of that is I now do more maintenance exercises than I ever did before. So every day I'm doing some cat camel, I'm doing some bird dog, I'm doing some glute bridges. I'm making them part of my daily routine, even on the days where I don't truly train. So what I'm asking you to do today is take a break from what you're doing and step back and look at how you're training. Is the exercise that you're choosing to do every day moving you closer or farther away from being able to do whatever the hell you want at 75 years old? Think about that for a minute. Make the changes and make your life better in the long run. We're looking to train for longevity, not for something that's happening right now. Now it's time for some good news. This is not our typical good news, but it's important. So it fits in with what we were talking about before in terms of how we train for longevity. There was a study that was published in December of 24. It was written by a group of scientists that collaborated, right? So it was scientists from University of Colorado, from Johns Hopkins, and a couple other institutions. And what they were looking for was what is the most predictive marker for longevity? Can you guess what it is? It's consistent movement on a daily basis. More important than your age, more important than family history, more important than cardiovascular disease or diabetes or recent cancer diagnosis. The thing that had the most impact on how long you live is how much you move on a daily basis. Let that sink in for a second, and then make sure that you're doing all that you can on a daily basis to move as much as you can.